Russian companies have begun using Bitcoin and other digital currencies in international payments, following legislative changes that allowed such use to counter Western sanctions. Russian Finance Minister Anton Siluanov said. He stated that Russian companies have already begun conducting cross-border payments in Bitcoin under new legislation. As part of experimental regime, it is possible to use Bitcoins, which we had mined here in Russia, in foreign trade transactions, Siluanov told Russia 24 television channel. Such transactions are already occurring. We believe they should be expanded and developed further. I am confident this will happen next year, he said, adding that international payments in digital currencies represent the future, emphasizing that digital currencies could become a key tool in international payments. If Russia is successful with using cryptocurrency, then other BRICS countries can also adopt it. And if big countries like China, India, Brazil, UAE, South Africa, and others start using cryptocurrency, then it will be hard for the United States to push for the dollar by threatening them. The local currencies are already being used by the BRICS and ASEAN countries and trying to reduce dependency on the US dollar. What leads Russia to use cryptocurrencies for international trade? Why does this matter to Russia? The United States and its allies have reportedly imposed more than 19,535 sanctions on Russia, also freezing foreign currency reserves worth 350 billion US dollars. They have also frozen about 70% of the assets of Russian banks and around 20 billion euros of assets from more than 1,500 sanctioned persons and entities. Russia's economy has been hampered by difficulties in making and receiving international payments, even with countries like China that don't use the US dollar to trade with Russia. Once key facilitators of Russia's trade, Chinese banks have significantly curtailed transactions over fears of losing access to US financial markets. By mid-2024, roughly 80% of Russian payments in Chinese yuan were reportedly rejected or returned. The shift follows legislative changes in Russia, allowing cryptocurrencies in foreign trade to counter the impact of sanctions. Moscow has embraced cryptocurrencies, including legalizing Bitcoin mining. Before I proceed, I encourage you to consider liking the video and don't forget to share your views on the topic in the comment section below. Your feedback is invaluable for us and a wider audience around the world. As one of the world's largest Bitcoin miners, Russia has also eased regulations for energy companies to sell power to mining operations, further integrating cryptocurrency into its trade mechanisms. Sanctions have complicated Russia's trade with its major trade partners such as China, Turkey, and India, as local banks are extremely cautious with Russia-related transactions to avoid scrutiny from Western regulators. Recently, Russia created an experimental legal framework for cryptocurrency miners, which includes a provision whereby approved entities can use cryptocurrency for international trade. Russia is one of the global leaders in Bitcoin mining. Sanctions have heavily restricted Russia's access to traditional financial markets. Both the US and the EU banned the export of dollars and euros to Russia in March 2022, reducing their use in trade. Chinese yuan initially filled the gap, becoming the most traded foreign currency in Russia. However, expanded US sanctions targeting financial institutions doing business with Russia have further constrained payment options. Russia and China have reportedly discussed barter-based trade as another mechanism to navigate sanctions-related payment challenges. Now the question arises, is it a challenge for US dollar dominance? Will US President-elect Donald Trump seek stricter scrutiny of cryptocurrencies in international trade? This development could create a challenge for President-elect Trump, who is both a crypto convert and an advocate for US dollar dominance. Previously on the campaign trail, Trump repeatedly vowed to defend the dollar's global dominance and impose punitive tariffs on nations attempting to de-dollarize. US President-elect Donald Trump issued a stark warning to impose 100% tariffs on the BRICS nations if they were to make any effort to sideline the US dollar in global trade. In March this year, the EU also agreed to cut off several Russian banks from the SWIFT financial transaction processing system, making it difficult for Russian businesses to engage in international trade. Most economists agree that the dollar-dominated financial system gives the United States major economic advantages, including lower borrowing costs, the ability to sustain larger fiscal deficits, and exchange rate stability. Washington also benefits from enormous geopolitical influence from so-called dollarization, including the ability to impose sanctions on other nations and restrict their access to trade and capital. Earlier this month, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that the current US administration was undermining the role of the US dollar as the reserve currency by using it for political purposes. He highlighted Bitcoin as one of those assets, saying that no country in the world can regulate it or prevent others from using it. Putin's remarks indicated that the Russian leader backs the extensive use of cryptocurrencies. A Russian lawmaker also recently proposed adding Bitcoin to the country's reserves to mitigate geopolitical risks. For now, this is an experiment and a few Russian companies use Bitcoin. However, if this experiment is successful, then dollar dominance will fade away. The US will not be able to use the dollar as a political tool and its hegemony will end soon. It's not just about the sanctions on Russia after the conflict with Ukraine, but the US is blackmailing almost all countries now. Even its own allies and friendly countries are looking for alternatives. Cryptocurrency is a wonderful option for international trade without any restrictions or bullying by any powerful country, whether the US or another country. However, challenges remain with cryptocurrency because not all countries have clear regulations allowing Bitcoin payments, and pressure from Western financial authorities could slow down the adoption of the cryptocurrency. Economists caution it's too early to determine how Russia's reliance on cryptocurrencies will affect global trade dynamics, but the dollar will certainly lose its charm over time, and the future will see a multi-currency world without any restrictions in international trade. It would be interesting to see if Russia's use of cryptocurrencies leads to stricter scrutiny of cryptocurrency transactions. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for new videos on important international topics.